Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jane. You're welcome to a new video. On today's tutorial, I'll be showing us how to draft a three-piece corset. If you're new here, you're welcome. Thank you for stopping by. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you as well. On this channel, I upload DIYs, pattern drafting and sewing tutorial. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not yet subscribed and put on your notification bell. So here on my screen I have an already drafted basic bodice. I have previously drafted this pattern on this channel. I'll leave the link in the description box. So here on my pattern I have all of my measurements on the paper. I'm going to just run down what I have. You can see the neckline, my shoulder drop, the shoulder line. I have the bust line, the underboss, and I also have my waist and side darts as well. So now after you've gotten this, what you're going to do now is to go to your shoulder line and you're going to be dividing what you have on the shoulder. No, okay, so at that point where we have the shoulder slope, whatever value you have there, you divide it into two. In my own case, I have 4 inches, and 4 inches divided by 2 is 2. So I'm going to place a mark at where 2 inches is on that shoulder line, and from that point I'm going to draw a slant line to touch my apex, that's to touch my bust line. Okay, after creating that line, we're going to create the neckline of this pattern. So you can use your underbust and your bust line, your distance from the bust line to the underbust, you can place it upward. So whatever you have from your bust to your underbust, you take it upward, and that will be your neckline. But in this case, mine is 3.5. I'm going to reduce it depending on how low or how high you want your corset to be on your chest. So for this, I'm going to reduce 1 inch from mine. I'll be taking 2.5 inch from the bust line upward. So 2.5 inch is what I'll be taking for the neckline of this corset. So here I am. I'm just going ahead to mark 2.5 inch all across my paper. And after that, I'm going to connect the points with a dash line. So this dash line is just an illustration that this is my neckline. Okay, so for some of us that are new here, for beginners, I don't want you to get confused with the line. So this new dash line I've just created, this new line that I've created is the neckline of the corset, where the corset will be sitting on my chest. You can go higher depending. You can just go ahead and use your bust radius to still be fine. Now coming down to your bust line, you go up by 1 inch. Okay, so you don't want your bust to be much more revealing on the middle part of your breast. So I decided to go up by 1 inch from my bust line, and then I came out by half an inch. So this is creating that division you get when you sew a corset. You see that division that holds the two cups together? That is it. So I marked half inch inward. I went up by 1 inch from my bust line, and I marked half inch inward, and from that half inch point I will be connecting a straight line down to touch my bust line. So you know this pattern is on fold, so by the time you open up the pattern, you have 1 inch at that point. Okay, so here after I've gotten that, now I'm going to go back to my neckline, and I'm going to be taking a dart on that neckline just so that the corset is firm on the chest and it's not falling off. So on the line where I have, on the part where I have my line running across the shoulder and the bust line, I'm going to take a dart of 0.75 inch on both sides. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and mark 0.5 inch on the left side and also 0.5 inch on the right side. So here, that is the dart that I'll be taking. And after taking this, I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect from the point that's from my neckline to touch my bust line. So you can see the way I placed my ruler. You must not necessarily have a ruler. If you can use your free hand, it's fine. Okay, whatever works for you. So after imputing the darts on both sides of the neckline, I'm going to connect one part of that, the center front of the dart leg, to touch the center line, the part where we have our 1 inch upward and half inch inward. So I'm going to just take my tape, my ruler, and then we're going to be connecting from the dart leg to touch that point where we came in by half an inch on our pattern. So you can see the center front of the corset has been formed. One part of it has been formed. Now coming down to the underbust line, I'm going to be taking my underbust measurement. Your underbust circumference divided by 4 is what you're going to be placing on your underbust line. So right there, I've placed the value of my underbust on the underbust line. Now coming down to the waistline, you place your waist circumference divided by 4. Okay, waist circumference divided by 4. Now plus the 1.5 inch that we took at the waist, we are going to be adding that back, and this is just so that we can create the side seam of this pattern. So I've added that back at the waistline. Moving up to the chest line where you have your bust divided by 4, your bust circumference divided by 4, you place the mark right there. Okay, now you're going to have to measure what you have on your darts, and whatever the value is you get from your dart, you're going to also replace it back at the chest line right there at the side. And then after you've done this, you're going to be taking your ruler and you're going to connect the points together. So you're going to be connecting these 2 points together, your chest line down to meet your waistline with a straight line. So you see, this way we have created the side seam for the pattern. Up next, I'm going to do the underboss tightening. And to do the underboss tightening, you can see where the value of our underboss stopped and we still have excess. So that excess, we are going to measure it, and whatever the value is, like in this case I have 1.75. okay, so I will be dividing that by 2. So I'll go up to my dart where I have my darts. At the point where I have the first dart leg, I'm going to place 0.75 on that point. So from the point where I have the first dart leg, not the middle line, the point where I have the first dart leg, I'm going to take 0.75 at that point. And then also coming towards the other side, the side where we have the side front, I will also be taking my dart towards the dart leg facing the side, and I'll be adding the 0.75 on it. So I decided to share the value that I got from the excess that is on my underboss on both sides of the dart on the underboss. So you can see I've placed a point at my underboss for the underboss tightening. And what you do after this is just to take your tape or your ruler, and you're going to be connecting that point where you marked on your underboss. You're going to be connecting a dart to touch your bust point. So like so, you can see the way I curved my ruler inward to touch the bust line. I will also do the same thing for the other side as well. I take my ruler and I'm going to be connecting that point to touch my bust line, my apex. So you can see that I have done the underboss tightening. The underboss tightening has been formed. So now what you need to do is to go ahead and bring down the dart legs from the underboss to meet the waistline. So just go ahead and connect the darts down to touch the waistline of this pattern. So basically what it means is that all the darts we've taken from the waist to the underbust is going to be cut out. We're going to be creating the curve for the center front now, and you're going to be connecting from your bust line to touch the underbust. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and place my ruler at that point to connect from my underbust to touch my bust line. So you can see that the center front curve, corset curve, has been formed. I'll just go ahead and connect all of the curves in between, just so that the curves will come out nicely. And when you do this, ensure that your curves are not pointed, so you don't have pointed corners at the point where the curves will be touching your bust line. So that's what I've done here. I've smoothed out my curve at the center front and also at the side. Now after you've connected all of the dart legs at the center right there, now we're going to be creating the side of this corset. So this, for the side of the corset, we are going to be closing in the side dart. So you see that the pattern has a side dart. So what I'll do is to go ahead and slash open the line that I have running from my shoulder to the bust line, I'm going to slash open that line so that it will enable us to be able to close the side dart. So I'll go ahead here, I'll take my scissors and I'll be slashing from the shoulder down to touch the apex line, so that's to touch my bust line. So here I've slashed from my shoulder line to touch my bust line, and now we are going to go ahead and fold in the side dart for this pattern. So the reason for slashing that is so that we can easily fold in our side dart. So you can see the way I'm folding in my side dart, ensuring that each side dart leg touch each other. Okay, so here it is after folding in our side dart. This is what our dart is looking like. That place has been closed off. Now we can now go ahead and create the side cup of this pattern. But before I create that, I'm going to also create the top of the side corset. Now you just go ahead and take your ruler and connect from the dart leg to touch your chest line, but you can come down by ½ inch if you don't want the top of that corset to be on your chest line. Now for the side cup, I'm going to be taking my bust radius from my bust point sideways. I'm going to take my bust radius and I'll be adding ½ inch to it, just because the bulbs is fuller on the side. So I added ½ inch to it, and then you place your curve from your underbust to touch your chest line where you have already created the top of the corset. Okay, so now moving on to making it a 3-piece corset. So at the top right there where my neckline is for the corset, I'm going to mark 1½ inch at that point. Okay, coming to the side as well at the center right there, I'll also mark 1½ inch. I'll place a mark of 1½ inch. The same thing to the side, I'll place 1.5 inch mark at that point, and towards the side also I will also place 1.5 inch at that point. And after placing those points, after I've gotten these 4 points, what you will do is to just take your ruler, your curved ruler, and we're going to be connecting all of the points that we've marked on this pattern. So I will go ahead and connect from the center to touch the side for the side center front, and also for the side front, connect from that point to also touch the side. You can see that way our 3-piece has been formed, but right now it's more like a 4-piece because we still have that dart running at the middle. So after we've gotten this style line for the corset, now we can go ahead and cut out the pattern. So I'm going to be starting from my waist. You're going to be cutting out all the darts on the waistline all through the whole of the pattern. So I'll just go ahead and cut out all of my pattern before we can now go ahead and join the top of the corset to make it one single piece. After we've done all of the cuttings, here is what the corset looks like. And please remember that this pattern does not have a sewing allowance to it. Please. Now I'm going to go join the top together so that we have a single piece. And when you are joining these 2 pieces together, ensure that they do not overlap on each other. So I'll just go and place this on a separate sheet of paper, and I'm going to use my tape to hold the 2 of them together on my paper. So here it is, guys. I've also added my sewing allowance to it, so you can see we have one single piece right there. And also for the remaining part of the corset, I've added my ½ inch sewing allowance all around it. Moving on to the back, I have this pattern already drafted. I have this on my channel already drafted. I'm going to leave it in the description box. So on this pattern, I just have the neckline, the shoulder line, the armhole line. I have my bust line and the waist dart, and also my waistline. I haven't done the side seam yet. Moving down to the waistline, I'm going to be placing 1/4 of my waist circumference. Now you're going to be starting your measurement from the center back line. So 1/4 of my waist circumference, I'm going to put that value right there on the waistline. Now before I continue to the side, I'm going to come over to the center back, and I'm going to take ½ inch from the center back line inward, And taking half an inch inward is just so that you eliminate any form of bulginess that might occur at the back of your pattern when you transfer this pattern to your fabric. So here, after taking half an inch from my waistline at the center back line, I will connect it to touch the center back line as well. Now moving down to the waistline, we add the half an inch I took out from the center back line. Because you went in by half an inch on the center back line, you need to replace it at the side seam. And also I added my that as well. I replaced it back at the side seam. So here the waistline has been created. Now what I'll do is to connect the style line for the back. So for the back, I'm just going to use my curved ruler to create the style line for the back, and I will be placing it from the chest line to meet the bust line. Now for this style line, you can decide to come down by 1 inch, whatever kind of style you are going for the back. This is the opportunity for you to create that line, that style that you want. But because I want this tutorial to be short and not to be too long, I'm just going to draw my style line from the chest line to touch the bust line. You can see that the back is the easiest of them all. It's so easy and simple. So here now, after creating the style line for the back, the next thing I will do is to just take a dart on the bust line. Now I'm going to do a little bit of tightening on that bust line because it's the back, and I'm going to be adding loops, so it's not really going to matter. So I'm going to be taking 0.25 on both sides of my dart leg, and from there I'll be connecting it back to touch the waistline. So I took 0.25 on both sides of the dart leg, which is making it half an inch. So I'll be connecting the right side down to touch the waistline, and also connecting the left side also down to touch the waistline of the dart. So all of the darts we've taken at the back is going to be cut off. Now what I'll do is to adjust my my measurement at the back. Now because I took extra half an inch for back tightening, I'm going to replace that back at the side. So the half an inch that I took for the tightening at the back and on that leg, I'm going to replace it at the side seam. So after replacing it at the side seam, now we can now go ahead and create the side seam of this pattern. So what you just do is to just take your ruler, and you're going to be connecting all the points that you've just marked on your pattern. So that's what I have done here. And after doing this, guys, we are done with the back. You can see how easy and simple the back is. So what you're going to do is to just start by cutting off the pattern. So I'm going to start by cutting off the style line for the back. Okay, cut out the style line for the back, and also we are going to be cutting out the half an inch we took inward to eliminate the back bulging. Okay, the bulginess that might occur at the back, we are going to also be cutting that out as well. We'll be cutting out the darts, all of the darts. We'll be separating the two panel of the back. Now after this, I'm going to be working on the center back of this pattern. So for the center back, I'm going to take in half an inch again because I'll be adding a back loop to this pattern. So I've drawn out half an inch from the center back line, and I'm going to cut that out. And after that, this is what our pattern looks like. I've added all of my sewing allowances to all of my pieces. I've added sewing half an inch sewing allowance all around it, both at the waist and the points where I want allowance to be, and also at the side I added 3/4 of an inch at the side. So this is it, guys. I hope you like this video. If you do, please subscribe to my channel, give me a huge thumbs up, and I will see you guys in my next one. Stay blessed wherever you are. Bye.